Father, I thank you for who you are. Lord, we love you. We thank you that we have your word to share, to disclose, to just study and dive deep. And Lord, let us dive deep tonight into Genesis 19. Show us biblical applications, how we can live Genesis 19 today. Let us understand what you're saying for Genesis 19 today. And let us bring it about, Father, in the right context that you have in your word put for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, Genesis 19 is a lot to unfold. I got called yesterday and I asked if I would go ahead and take Genesis 19. I said 100% I'll take Genesis 19. So I got about 8 hours of information to disclose in 1 hour. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Genesis 19, verse 1. Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. Where Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground, and he said, "Hear now, my lords, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet, that you may rise early and go on your way." And they said, "No, but we will spend the night in the open square." But he insisted strongly. So they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. All right. Any ideas who's these two men? It says two angels. Amen. Amen. I wondered, when I was reading this, I wondered, how did these two angels, we're in Genesis 19, for those of you who came in and walked in, we're in Genesis 19. I always wondered, I'm like, how did they look? Because immediately Lot went to them and bowed. So there was something special about these two gentlemen that he knew, whether he spent enough time with Abraham to know things like that, but he knew that these angels were special. You don't think I need it? Billy, she said I don't need the mic. Okay, all right. Y'all hear me good? All right, fine, perfect. I don't need a mic. So, yeah, these angels seem to be distinguished guests with an air of righteousness and morality, some kind of mortality to them. But I just thought it was interesting that he left his seat to go and bow down to them. It also says Lot was sitting at the gate. Anybody got any things on that?
He was a judge.
Bingo. He was a judge. Well, I believe that when they were captured and Abraham went and rescued them, that the city showed Lot favor and made him an elder in the city, because all the government sat at the gate. They all had seats. So the government judges sat at the gate, and that's where they made decisions for the city, is at the gate. And when someone came to come into the city, they were met with these officials. And so he had some kind of favor that put him at the seat of the gate in Sodom here. So it like the town hall, you know. So, but he was the only one that saw them, and he ran out and fell on their knees. So the other ones were like, "Who's this?" You know, So all of a sudden, word spreading out in the town now. Hey, there's two new men that just showed up that's about to come into Sodom. There's two new men here. Y'all spread the word. There's two new men. But Lot himself was a righteous man who was grieved by some sin. He had to have some kind of conscience, I think,
Even though Lot was messy, you're going to see he's messy. And this goes into PG17 big time in a couple of parts in this chapter. And for those of you watching at home, I'll give you a chance, if you do have children, to make them leave the room, because Lot is messy and this chapter is messy. Just so shows how people can be really sinful. But because of his compromise, his daughters really and his wife really, it wasn't good. But he had to have some kind of conscience, because the two men, the two angels said, hey, we're going to sleep in the square. And Lot's like, no, y'all can't do that, not in this city. Like, come into my house. Anybody got anything on that? We'll see that in a few. Yeah, we'll see that in a few. Yeah, but he insisted strongly, enter my house, please come into my house, be my guest, come as quickly as you can, get in. Like, I would have been like, what's going on in this town? It's like a weird town you go into, they were angels sent from the Lord. Yeah, they knew. But, oh gosh, yeah. The wickedness and the depravity of the men of Sodom, though, it's just, it's crazy. We're going to move on. Where are we at? In verse 4. Now, before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, listen to this, both old and young. Now, all the men in this city, both young, old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house, and they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them carnally. Yeah, bring them out, because we want to know them. Which this here confirms when Abraham was interceding to God. Hey, God, what if there's 10 righteous in Sodom? Will you not destroy them? And here it says, all the men, old and young, bring them out to us. We want to know them carnally. So listen to this. Lot was a judge, an elder, sitting in a government position at the gate of Sodom, knowing all this was going on in his city. It's accepted behavior. It's normal. It's what they do. The Bible says that Adam knew Eve carnally, and they had a son. Adam knew Eve in that way, and it bore a son. So they wanted a little bit more than just to shake their hand. The sin of the men of Sodom was plainly connected to their homosexuality. And God said this is an abomination. There is no doubt the Bible declares homosexuality conduct is sin. Romans 1, 26 to 28. There's no doubt that God was saying this is not good. But why did all the men, old and young, come? This is where it really gets interesting, Billy. There's theories on this. Theologians say a lot of things about this. But there's a guy recently who went to the Jordanian government and got permits. He mapped out exactly where Sodom should be. And he went, and I'm sure a lot of you seen the videos and seen this guy out and digging for stuff. So he went out to find Sodom and what it is today and where it's at. And so he went out there and past the Dead Sea, and he mapped out where it should be, and it's a big old hill. And he got the permits to go dig. You got to renew that permit every year. You can still go dig today. You could go check it out, but you got to have a permit. And whenever he started digging, he started finding ruins and in Sodom. And one of the things he found that was interesting and different, he found pillars. That they would have these big buildings, and it would be pillars. And it was weird because the Canaanites didn't build pillars. That wasn't their culture. That the pillar architecture, that was more of Minoan culture. Other cultures built pyramids. Something else they found was some type of artifacts with bulls with the head down, horns down, and half bull, half man. They found all kind of interesting things in their research. And when they went to the Minoan culture, they realized that that was a huge deal. They used to run in these arenas and jump and put the bull's head down and jump on its back and do flip. They was obsessed with this, just what they did. And but the Minoans were very nasty people. You know how bad the Canaanites were? In fact, you're going to go into, I think, Genesis 23 or 24. It's going to say that Abraham was looking for a wife for his son Isaac. And they said, well, let's go find him a wife. And he said, listen, go at least 300 miles because I don't want him to marry a Canaanite woman. They're nasty. So if Abraham's going to say that the Canaanites are nasty, and the Canaanites are going to say the Minoans are nasty, how bad were the Minoans? In the Minoan culture, in the historian chronicles, they would do a thing to take young boys to make them a man and a citizen of their culture. When they were, I guess, around 12 years old, what they would do is they would arrange it with the parents to kidnap this 12-year-old boy. And they would go in the night and they would kidnap this 12-year-old boy with the parents knowing it was an arranged kidnap. They would go into the woods and they could do whatever they wanted with that 12-year-old boy. That was the initiation to become a man. That was the initiation to become a man. So was there a lot of Minoans in Sodom that all of a sudden they saw these two men come and they said, hey, we got to initiate these two men, get all the young boys and all the men, and let's surround the house and take them to the wilderness. Just saying. Could have been, you know. So yeah, it was a very wicked place. So that's why Abraham was interceding. Hey, God, I don't want you to destroy Sodom, you know. We read, you know, was it last week about his interceding to God to save them. What if there's 10 good people? Will you destroy the city? You know what? If you could find 10 good people, I won't destroy the city. But he couldn't. He couldn't. So what do y'all think about that?
Is that where they get Sodom from?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yep. But I mean, even the Canaanites thought, man, it was bad. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him. Now we're about to see how messy Lot is. About to see how really messy Lot is. And said, please, brethren, he's calling them brethren. All these sodomites, these homosexuals, listen, brothers. And said, he shut the door behind him and said, please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. See now, I have 2 daughters. Listen how crazy he was. I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof. Any comments on that? They were married. They were engaged. Yeah. They were given to someone, but they haven't consummated their marriage yet. They never knew a man. Because back then, if you know, me as a father, I'm gonna give my daughter to Colby as an engagement, and we're gonna prepare for a wedding. Would they consider that married already until the ceremony and the consummation of the marriage that the two come together? So that's why it says they never knew a man yet, you know? Yeah. Yeah, well, the son-in-laws weren't. They were part of the group. So anyway, anyone else on this one? Yeah, 2 daughters. Yep, and they were about 14 or 15 years old. That's usually the time they give their children back then. So you're looking at him telling this whole town of men and young boys, let me just give you my two daughters and you can do whatever you want to them. Just leave these two men alone. That's messed up. He's messy. That's a messy man right there.
That would be bad, but what you want to do to the guys worse.
So back then the houses weren't very big. So what you think his two daughters are thinking right now about their virginity? What kind of values placed on that? My dad's willing to give me to the whole city to do what they want to me? Like how nervous can they be right now?
More than likely they'd have been killed.
So yeah, it is. And they said, stand back. Then they said, this one came in to stay here and he keeps acting as a judge. Now they're turning on Lot. Exactly. It's funny how when you don't give the devil what he wants, how he always gets a little bit more angry and wants to do more. This one came to stay here and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. So they pressed hard against the man, Lot, and came near to break down the door, but the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into his house and shut the door. We're going to talk about that later about a door. Because in the Bible, it's over and over, doors save people. In Egypt, what did they get behind? A door, you know? And the two spies that went to Jericho and Rahab, whoever was behind the door was saved. In Revelations, before God pours his judgment, Jesus says, I am the door. So it's amazing how it's a door, you know?
Also, too, Samson, when he pulled that door out, they would probably been shooting arrows at him. He was had it on his back.
Yeah.
Running up that hill.
Yep. And all those stories too have two witnesses. All those stories too have two witnesses. So, but the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot. Let me get my towel. Get my towel. I saw Boudreaux started sweating. And they struck the men who were in the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. So let's just go back to the beginning. Please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. What do y'all think of that statement right there? Like he came out, slammed the door, left his daughters, his wife, and these two angels. And it's almost like he's identifying with them. Like he's coming out and slams the door. Brothers, what are y'all doing? My brothers. We sit at the table together. We sit at the gate and make decisions for this city. Leave these two men alone. What are y'all doing? The only reason we put you in there is because your uncle saved us. We're fixing to do to you something that you ain't never seen before. The only reason you sitting at that gate is because of your uncle Abraham. When we were captive, he heard and came save us. Yeah. He was always an outsider to them. But what's crazy is, what got him in that position to begin with? Let's back up for a minute. I got a lot in my heart, y'all, so I'm going to try and just get it all out in 1 hour. Him and Abraham was together, Lot and Abraham. Abraham was teaching Lot the ways of God and righteousness and to do good. But Lot saw everything Abraham had and he wanted that. He wanted the wealth. He wanted the riches. He wanted the camels, the goats, the cows. So Abraham granted him that and everything grew and Abraham had a big business and Lot had a big business. And all of a sudden the employees started fighting with each other and they couldn't get along. So Abraham went to Lot and he says, listen, we have to part ways. Because your company is fighting with my company, and this is not how God wanted it. He says, you look, you go. You pick where you go, and I'll go the other way. And Lot saw that Sodom, the land was good and fertile to grow crops. He saw that the land would bless him. So what he did, he pitched his tent right outside the gates of Sodom. And that's where he lived, in a tent. He was a nomad. But you know what? At one point, I believe he got tired of being a nomad like Abraham. And he said, I think I want to move into the city. You want to know what the difference is between Abraham and Lot? Lot looked for a land that would bless him. Abraham knew that wherever he went, God would bless the land he was in. That's the difference. So Lot eventually ended up moving into Sodom. And that's when he had a wife and then a family. But now he's compromised. Go ahead. They still had all that. He had and his company. What you think why he was so wealthy in Sodom? He had all that. Because all of his workers probably got initiated in the wilderness and turned to what they were. Because God couldn't find one righteous. I mean, 10 righteous. Couldn't find 10. Well, Peter says that Lot was righteous. And then when I get to heaven, I'm going to go to Lot and say, Lot. And he's going to tell me, well, it was my connection to my uncle. Well, what about us? What makes us righteous? Because we're not really good. It's who we connected. It's who we connected to that makes us righteous. Just saying. I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do as you wish. Whoa. Now, in one study, it says under the sacred obligation, when guests came to your house, they were very important. They were to be fed. They were to be protected at all costs. That was a rule and a ritual. That was a custom, yeah, that you protect your guests. They even came, and a lot of times above your family and your daughters. That could have been what he was doing right here. You know, me as a father, I'd have been getting my weapons and coming outside and saying, y'all get off my property. Y'all going to die right here. You know, I'm just saying, you know, but he was messy. And then they started mocking him, of course. He acts like a judge. But he has no respect because he's compromised. That's what a compromised life leads to. People who look at you and you compromise your life for Christ, they don't really respect you. Because you may attend church one day and the next day you're doing things that the Bible doesn't approve of, living a sinful life. So these men really, number one, didn't respect him. I don't know what kind of faith he talked to them about even. I don't know if he told them the ways of Abraham and righteousness. But even if he did, they probably looked at him and said, he's not really living it. He's compromised. What do y'all think?
Because he agrees with their lifestyle. You're a judge, and that's it. You agree with their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you're part of that. Like they say, arm sharpens arm,
Yeah.
man sharpens man.
Yeah.
Whatever you rub elbows with, that's what you become.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you don't participate in it, you're still of that spirit.
He was trying to save God. He was trying to protect God too. You think about the 2 angels. He can't protect God. It says, but the men reached out their hands, pulled Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. So that's weird because they had the door, they had to fight to get in. The angels struck all the men with blindness. Isn't it that like the Christianity? We get saved, we come in the door, we're saved, we're protected, we're safe, and everybody outside the door is still blind to the gospel.
Look at Saul.
Yeah. Yep.
Saul was blind the same
He was blind. Exactly. But the work of striking the men blind was supernatural. I mean, this is a mob. So I think it was more than blindness. I think they were even disoriented, because if you take my sight and I'm right by the door, I could find the knob, you know? So I believe they were not only blind, I believe they were disoriented because they didn't know where to go, what to do. You know, it was definitely something supernatural that only God can do. You know, they were right there at the door of protection, but it didn't matter. You know.
That's kind of like when Gideon and his small army went up against
Mm-hmm.
the enemy, and the Lord struck the enemy, with confusion,
Yes.
so that they were killing each other.
Killing each other.
Yes.
And Gideon's like,
Yes. But I mean, it must have taken great supernatural strength to do what the angels did at the door, but maybe for the first time, Lot began to understand who his guests really were. Like, wow, I'm trying to protect y'all, and you can do this? You know, one strike and they're all blind. But then he says this, then the men said to Lot, this blew my mind. This shows that even though this mob's out there wanting to do these things to these two men, the angel looks and says, have you anyone else? Is there anyone else we need to save? I mean, if I would have been one of them men in that city and they would be trying to do that to me, I'd be like, let's kill them all and let's get out now. Like, no mercy. Let's go. But is there anyone else that needs to be saved before God destroys this city? It shows the mercy and grace of God, how loving He is, how kind He is, that He gives chance after chance after chance after chance. Son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city, take them out of this place. So He's still giving everybody a chance. For we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Have you anyone else? I mean, it shows a concern. Do we have that kind of concern for those that are outside the door? Or all we do is see shadows? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it, Brother Daniel. It's coming. It's coming. The outcry against God. You know, He sees everything on earth, every sin. The heinous crime that was committed today to Charlie. God saw it. He sees every sin. He sees everything. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-law, who married his daughters, and said, get up, get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But to his sons-in-law, he seemed to be joking. In one translation, it says jesting. What do y'all think about that?
Because they didn't want to get rid of that lust of that sin.
Yeah. So when they said that Abraham would have a baby, Sarah would have a baby, they jested. They laughed.
Yeah.
Like, you joking. You got to be joking. You know, exactly. It was it's basically the same Hebrew word, jesting, joking, laughing. Hey, son-in-laws. I mean, if I would go to my son-in-law and say, hey, we're about to be destroyed, come, and he just starts laughing. So
All the men of the town were like that, and he was willing to marry his daughters to that.
he's gonna marry, yeah, because they had to keep having boys to keeping the tradition going. So it's not like it just was only men with men. They only use women to procreate so they can continue their sick traditions that they had going on in that place.
Still do that in the Middle East to this day. Sad. It's disgusting.
So, but imagine having to go out and find your son-in-laws with all these men. Yeah, they were married. Yeah, engaged. But the B word, but betrothed or betrothed. Yeah, like an engagement. The culture and the tradition back then, if I give my daughter to be married to Kobe, even though they're not living together, they considered married. It's an engagement, but it's married. They're married. We consider it an engagement. They considered a marriage. Then Kobe would go to prepare a place for my daughter. When that place was done, then we had a big celebration. Then he would take my daughter and he would go and consummate the marriage. The consummation never happened with them two daughters yet.
Consummation, the whole family goes around the bed.
Oh, yeah, to make sure.
You have to have the blood.
You got to see the proof of the blood on the bed to make sure they were consummated. That's correct. 100%. So, but they to us, we call that an engagement, but they were married. So, yeah. Tell y'all, this is crazy stuff.
That's why Mary and Joseph was worried about that.
Yeah, exactly. So when the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Arise, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." And while he lingered, my gosh, he lingered. The men took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of the two daughters, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. How many hands did the angels have? At 4. And they saved 4 people. They had to drag them out. Think about that. Yeah. But they were urging him. We see that these angels, they could have been some good evangelists, these angels. Because they went after Lot, going to his house. They warned him of what was going to happen in plain words, and they urged him to get out, to flee to destruction. That's what we're supposed to do to people, But why did he linger? Why do y'all think he lingered?
The stuff they had, it's the same thing with his wife. That's why he turned around. The stuff she had in the city.
He didn't have an urgency to leave the city. He had a business at the city. He had a seat at the gate. He was thinking of all the things that was about to be destroyed. Maybe he was thinking, how can I get some of my cattle out? How can I get some of my stuff out of here? And you'll see later why I say this, because I think something's going to confirm that just later on what he tells the angels. But, even compromise causes you to backslide, and even though somebody's got your hand and dragging you, your heart's still looking and saying, man, my stuff. They took hold of his hand. Every hand had a hand. And every hand had a hand. And they were dragging him out. When I read later on, I'm like, God, couldn't it have only been Lot that come out of there? Like, when you really look. But they brought him out and set him outside the city. When you think about Lot, he was in the worst possible place of his life right now. He had too much of the world to be happy in the Lord, and too much of the Lord to be happy in the world. That's facts right there. So we're going to keep on, because see what time we're? Well, cutting it close here. So it came to pass, when they had brought them outside, that he said, "Escape for your life." This is serious. "Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed." Escape for your life. I mean, the angels seem more urgent to rescue Lot than Lot to rescue him and his family. Like, where are you looking? Where's your affection, Lot? Like, go to the mountains. But this is the response that gets me. Because he's looking at all his stuff that he has, his comfort. He's looking at everything that he got. And then he's looking at the mountains. There's nothing there. There's not a house there. There's no luxury there. And he looks at the angels. Then Lot said to them, please, no, my lords, indeed now. Your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy, which you've shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. Huh? Huh? What is this guy thinking? Please, no. It seemed pathetic, a pathetic prayer. He's whimpering. It's like God made a place in the mountains for him to escape. And he's like, no. What if something evil up there overtakes me? I can't go there. But listen, he had something in the back of his head why he said this. He says, see now, this city is near enough to flee to Zor. And it is a little one. Please let me escape there. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? So he's thinking, man, what city I can go to that has something? What city can I go to? Where can I go? That has a little bit comfort, maybe not as much as Sodom. And he said, see, I have favored you concerning this thing also, in that I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zor. Yeah. What do you think about that? Somebody got to have comments on that. Somebody got to. That just...
It's still got that same spirit there, too. That's one of the surrounding cities around Sodom, because that always dripped down there, too. So he didn't want to get rid of that sin.
It's amazing. He said, hurry up and get to the city so I can destroy it. Something big was coming. Something powerful was coming. Something that the earth has never seen was coming to kill all these people. And they had chances to get out. They had chances, you know. But it was a little place called Zor. Again, God showed mercy and granted it to him. All right, go to Zor. You don't want to go to the mountain, go to a city. He wanted to go to something that was already established. In the mountains, there was nothing established. He'd have to start all over again.
He couldn't be like Abraham. Abraham knew where he went.
Wherever he went was blessed because of him. Mm-mm.
If you would have been smart, you'd have said, let me go with my uncle Abraham.
He didn't have the brains.
Yeah.
I read something on Zor.
Uh-huh.
Means insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of the 5 cities, along with Sodom and Gomorrah, that was slated for destruction.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
And because of Lot's request, and because he was considered righteous, Zor was spared. So if it was slated for destruction,
Bingo.
I'm sure there were unholy acts that they were committing, similar to Sodom and Gomorrah.
That's why I said that spirit.
Maybe human trafficking kids even to Sodom and Gomorrah. Knowing the people who sat in the gate at Sodom and Gomorrah. And Lot's looking like, man, can I go to Zor?
Yeah, because it's familiar to him.
Yeah, he could have been a ruler.
Familiar to my wife, familiar to my daughters. Even though it's not as luxurious as Sodom, we can maybe do something there.
And perhaps he became familiar with, or he got comfortable with the sinful lifestyles. Even though,
Yeah,
He might have been in Denver too.
yeah. But that's true. Genesis 19, my brother.
So he was just considered righteous because he of Abraham.
His connection to
He
Abraham.
was not righteous at all.
I mean, it was his connection to Abraham. God,
in First Peter,
in 1 Peter, he's called righteous. Listen, we're righteous because of Christ. So when it's all said and done in the books, we're going to be known as righteous. Even though we did sinful acts, because of our connection to Christ, just like Lot's connection to Abraham, he was considered righteous. But this is some heinous stuff. I know.
He's actually like one of them.
So I got to move on. We got 20 minutes, and still got a lot. But we good. We're gonna get through. Yeah, we're doing real good. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire. The Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. So he overthrew those cities, all the plains, all the inhabitants of the city, and what grew on the ground. That's important right there. What grew on the ground. But his wife looked back behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Where was she? Behind who? Lot. Was she lingering back for a reason? They all were going ahead, and she was like, 2 steps here, 2 steps, and they're going, and they're not looking back. He said, don't look back. And then finally, I got to look back. Anyway,
The lust of the world.
one of the things that's interesting with this right here is some of the findings that Stephen Collins did when studying this. I mean, fire left this land, this area, uninhabitable 700 years after this. You know, this place was 5 times bigger than Jericho, 62 acres surrounded by 15-foot thick walls. City was fortified. Sodom was popping. But when digging, all the buildings they found bent northeast. All of them. It was hit from something above, almost like a meteorite exploding. And all the buildings bent. I mean, this was in Forbes magazine, Newsweek. They said the evidence of Sodom, it exploded over the northern side of the Dead Sea. What's in the Dead Sea? Salt rocks. It picked up all them salt rocks with a force of 700-something mile-an-hour wind and blew salt rocks and fire, brimstone, sulfur, destroying the land. Not a normal flare, not a normal fire. They said this degree of fire was over 2,000-something degrees. If you was to set a house on fire, that's about 1,100 degrees. This was something that the earth has never seen before. It melted pottery, it melted mud bricks that were fused into glass. This is all things they're finding. The widespread presence of glass is a material called trinonite, which forms from the sand fused by extremely high heat. In 1945, they did atomic blast tests to heat, and they used pressure, and it left trinonite rocks. You have to have a degree of 2,000 to make a trinonite rock.
In other words, like a nuclear blast.
Like a nuclear blast. Charcoal fragment. Discalculated human remains. I mean, it was a massive complex that got destroyed. And then tiny microscopic nanodiamonds and shock quartz, which are associated with the cosmic impacts. The pressure, they said the pressure that this thing brought would be like putting 150 F-Ford 150 trucks on your thumb. 150 trucks. That's the pressure this thing brought. It decimated the city. It was a flash heat, over 2,000 degree temperature, vaporized a portion of the Dead Sea, throwing that salt all over the land, resulting in what's called saline soil, which makes the land infertile. No survivors, people or animals. It fell on the land. It fell on the land. It fell 500 square kilometers north of the Dead Sea. 500 square kilometers north of the Dead Sea was affected. Hydride salt and sulfate was higher than 6% in the ashes they found, which means nothing will ever grow there again. Salt and sulfur was found in the ashes. Can never grow crops again. And all she did was look back. And the salt got her. She turned into a pillar of salt, crystallized right there. In fact, Moses talks about this in Deuteronomy 29 and 23. He says, the whole land is brimstone, salt, and burning. Is it not sown, nor does it bear, nor does any grass grow there? Like overthrown Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, Zor should have been in there, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and wrath. You know, she was behind the door, saved and delivered. Think about it. Only the ones behind the door was saved and delivered. But she turned back. She turned back. She was behind that door, saved and delivered. The angel grabbed her by the hand, grabbed her two daughters by the hand, grabbed Lot by the hand, led them out the city, outside. She was saved, but she turned back. Luke 17, it says, it was the same in the days of Lot. People were eating, drinking, buying, selling, planning, building. But the day Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just like this on the day the Son of Man is revealed, Jesus. On that day, no one who is on the housetop with possessions inside. Whoa, what was Sodom and his wife and everybody worried about? Possessions inside should go down to get them. Likewise, no one in the field should go back for anything. Remember Lot's wife? This is Luke now, Dr. Luke. Whoever tries to keep their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will preserve it. Don't regard your stuff. You can't keep your old life. That's powerful. Don't regard your stuff. You can't keep your old life. Any comments before I move on? I'm trying to go quick.
There was no smell, no birds of the air coming to eat what was left, but there was
Nothing.
It was all
Nope.
destroyed. So all the life that was there was like they were just disintegrating.
Yep. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Listen, he don't know if Lot made it. There's no he never seen Lot again. Then he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah and towards all the land of the plain, and he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land which went up like smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass when God destroyed the cities of the plain that God remembered. Why was Lot saved even though he was who he was? God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out in the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt in. It was because of Abraham Lot got saved. Just like all of us. We deserve the fire of hell. But because of...
He sent Lot back to Sodom.
Who? No. No. He rescued Lot from Sodom. Abraham went back and looked at the city, look at the ruins. Abraham. You know, he's probably looking and wondering, man, I wonder if Lot made it. You know, or he says, God, I know you're a God of promise. You know, I know you saved him. You know, he interceded for him. You know, that's like us. A lot of times we intercede for people and we don't see if they make it or not. Just like Abraham interceded for Lot and he don't know if he made it or not. We're the same with people, you know. But this is the first judgment since the flood. Let's just go over this recap real quick. 2 messengers to offer mercy, okay? Always salvation behind a door. Deliverance, someone always goes back, right? And then final judgment. When you look at Sodom, that's the pattern right there. You look at Egypt, Moses and Aaron, the 2 witnesses to go to deliver the people. Blood on the doorpost, saved behind the door. The Hebrews delivered, but what happens when they get into the wilderness? Oh, I want to go back to I want to go back. Wanting to go back, and then what happens? Judgment. Jericho, 2 spies sent to Rahab's house. Everyone behind the door with the scarlet hanging over the roof is saved. Conquering the city, all its treasure. Who wanted the treasure? Who wanted to go back? Achan wanted the treasure. Then God's judgment. Revelation, the final judgment. We got 11:3, Revelation 11:3, 2 witnesses. Jesus says, I stand at the door. Come in and you'll have salvation. I am the door. Revelations chapter 18 and 19, fire's fallen in Babylon. They're mourning the wealth and the comfortable life, looking back, and great Babylon falls. God refers to homosexuality as an abomination. I got to keep on because it's winding down. Man, it's going to be close, y'all. It's going to be close. I don't know if I could do it. Then Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him. For he was afraid to dwell in Zoar, and he and his 2 daughters dwelled in a cave. Why was he afraid to dwell in Zoar? Man, it doesn't say.
If you look back and saw what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah and all the little towns, you figure not going to destroy this.
I don't think that. That's a good point. I think the people gave him trouble. I think. Because he asked to go to Zoar. And I don't think he was, after what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't think he was welcomed too kindly in Zoar. That's just me. Now, this is all hypothetical. This is not, yeah. I don't know, but the people might have become dissatisfied with him. Maybe he wanted to go in Zoar and sit at the gate. Maybe he wanted to rule Zoar. Maybe he wanted to be up there because that's what he's used to. And the people's like, get out of here, you and your 2 daughters. So he went to the cave, which is what? Where most fugitives go. If you got any kids online, get them out the room because this is where this is ridiculous.
He had nothing.
Yes.
He left, all he had was clothes on his back.
Yes.
So he sought
So
shelter.
not in a cave, him and the 2 daughters. Stop reading ahead, Amber. I see you. Now, now the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man on earth. They just come out of Zoar. I mean, yeah, no man on earth to come into us, as is the custom of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve the lineage of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in, lay with her father, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. It happened on the next day, and the firstborn said to the younger, indeed, I lay with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight, and also you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father. Then they made the father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose to lay with him, and he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. Do you realize how a life of compromise can affect your children to a point to where they have zero morals about anything. Anything goes. I mean, living in a low moral environment like Sodom affected Lot's family and his daughters. This is something that you can't imagine. Yeah.
Like society did it.
When was the first time Lot's daughters was ever mentioned? When he offered them to the two angels in the city to do whatever they wanted to them. It's the first time the daughters were ever mentioned. This 14 and 15-year-old daughters thinking, so they thinking, ain't nothing wrong with this. You know, there's no conscience right now, zero conscience. You know, it says this, and I'm wrapping things up. I am, because it's almost 8. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father, the firstborn son, and called his name Moab. Moabites, a thorn in Israel's side, and is father of the Moabites to this day. And the younger, she also bore a son called Ben-enemy, which is the Amorites. And he is the father of the people of Ammon to this day. So let me just say this. What God destroyed in Sodom was rebirth by Lot's 2 daughters. What God just destroyed was rebirth. Because the Moabites took kids, infants, and put them in a Moab, the god Moab, a gold image, had a hole in the belly, and they would take the firstborn and throw it in the fire to their gods. Moab, Moabites. The firstborn infant son would go into the fire as a sacrifice to the god. They come from Lot's daughters. The Amorites, they were well known. If a woman was pregnant, go right up to the woman and slice the belly open and pull the kid out the womb. So all we see here is like, even Amos says, Amos says that about the Amorites. I mean, Lot's daughters provide kids that take kids and slaughter them for worship. Think about that. Lot's daughters had kids who killed kids. But thank God Ruth rejected the Moabites. Thank God we reject this world tonight. God gave us 19 to show us that we don't deserve his mercy. But thank God for his grace, because we deserve judgment. Man, I went through this whole chapter. Can y'all believe that? Do you have any comments on the end part, though? Sodom exploited children. That's what they did.
Abortion, basically.
It is. Yep. But the Moabites and the Amorites are major players in the Bible. Always against Israel, always against God.
They don't speak too much, bro. They don't speak too much of the Nicolaitans. But the word says as the ones who eat.
Yeah, in Revelation. I preached on that. Yeah.
It must have been similar to them.
Well, they had, the Nicolaitans had a greasy grace message. In other words, what they would love to do is, hey, let's go do what we want on Saturday. As long as we're in church Sunday morning, we can do whatever we want. God covers it. That was them.
Modern day church in America.
That was them. Yeah, that was the Nicolaitans that he talks about in Revelation chapter 2 to the church that lost their first love. So yeah. Anyway, you can